Hey guys. Well, I just left my last IEP meeting. Whew. My daughter, Courtney, who passed away 3 years ago at age 21, she'd be 24 now, started school when she was 18 months old. And so this has been part of my journey for close to 24 years. And dang, it's been so much. It's so hard for me to even put into words, but I've been thinking a lot about this. And it's not like totally done until Kev's last day of school, but today was definitely my last IEP meeting. But in 2 weeks, he'll be done. But I've been thinking, a lot about this. And I've been thinking, I've done trachs with my daughter. I did ventilator, did a central line and TPN due to intestinal failure for 17 years, ran a little ICU from my home, did a 4-year international adoption, been doing autism for 12 years with my son. We've done a lot. We've done 4-month hospitalizations. We've watched our daughter die. We've done so much. And probably one of the most taxing parts of my journey as a disability mom has been special education in the public schools. And the time that it has taken. Whew. It's so frustrating. It shouldn't be this hard. And I think the thing over the last handful of years that has just really impacted me is just how what your child gets is totally dependent on the parent's capacity to ensure it happens. And that should not be the case. It should not be the case that how much a parent knows, how much tenacity a parent has, how much financial resources a parent has, what their skill set is, what their critical thinking is, none of that should dictate what a child with a disability gets in the public education system. But the reality is it does. And I've watched that and I've lived that. And so as I've sat in these meetings for over 2 decades, I think what resonates with me the most is I'm not just advocating for my kids, but I'm advocating for the parents that don't know how to do this, don't have the capacity to do this, don't have the skill set to do this, don't have the tenacity to do this. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to know that there are kids that don't get what they need. Maybe because their mom is a single mom and works 2 jobs. I would never be able to do what I have done if I worked a full-time job. I would never be able to keep up on the emails, the documentation. I would never be able to do what I've done if I had to work full-time. And I'll be honest, there were times where it was even really freaking hard with having 2 kids with significant needs and both in public education. There are times it just has felt so incredibly overwhelming. And I definitely recognize that that the truth in all this is that the more needs your kids have, and both of my kids needed one-on-one nursing. Kevin was placed out of district at a private school. The more needs they have, the more costly those needs are. That's when it becomes really hard. That's when it becomes super taxing. That's when the challenges come. And it just shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that, this special education system is stacked against parents, or that if you don't have resources, financial resources, that you can't defend your child's rights in the education system. And I'm going to do a podcast about this. I really am. I'm going to do a podcast about the whole secret world of special education because I have to, because it's needed. But man, it just breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that when I list off all the things we've walked through as a family, when I say that my kids being in school has been one of the most taxing things. And you know what's kept me going, though? Do you honestly want to know? What's kept me going is that my daughter was trached and was sometimes on a ventilator, and she still graduated high school. She still wore her gap and her gown. And Kevin did the same thing a couple years ago. And they had their beautiful little lives and their beautiful friends. And they got to be in the community and they got to do amazing things. And so it was always worth fighting for, always. But should you have to fight for those things? Should it be this hard? Should it be the thing that keeps you up at night some nights? Should it be the meetings that you dread? Schools should be so safe. They should be so safe, not just for the kids, but for parents. And it's just so disheartening when you see that change and not be what it should be. And I get it. This is part of loving my kids. And so no matter how hard it's been, I've always thanked God for the tenacity to advocate, for the diligence and the perseverance to just keep going, even when it's been so hard. But man, it's been so hard. And it just shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Yeah. But I'm thankful. I'm thankful that my kids, they knew the battles. They knew it, but it didn't stop them from school, and it didn't stop them from having incredible teachers. I could tell you that the teachers have been great, So we always had really supportive, amazing teachers, and for that I'm so thankful. But I really wrestle with, what is a mom that's a single young mom, in East Cleveland? How does she do this? How does she do this? That's maybe working 2 jobs. How does she do this? The truth is she probably doesn't, because she probably can't. And that just breaks my heart. And recently I was at a disability conference in DC maybe a week ago. And their keynote speaker was just kind of rattling off some things certain churches do to just love on families affected by disability. And what got the biggest gasp from the crowd and what got the biggest applause was when he said that there's a church that sends someone from the church to every IEP meeting that a family goes to. And I just wept. I wept because it just showed me that somebody has entered into the lives of those families and has understood that this is really hard for families. And what a beautiful way to show the love of Jesus to a disability family by providing that type of support and encouragement for something that affects our lives daily for many years, most of our kids for 22 years of their lives. And so I just thought that was incredible. And I just wanted to share that. But Yeah, look for my podcast that'll be coming out probably in a couple weeks. Just, talking more about this and my thoughts on this. Um, but yeah, thanks for listening. And I'm definitely going to have a little margarita party to celebrate that I survived close to 24 years of the special education system. So I'm excited about that. Take care, guys.